Svādhyāya is a Sanskrit term which literally means one's own reading and self-study. It is also a broader concept with several meanings. In various schools of Hinduism, Svadhyaya is a Niyama connoting introspection and study of self. The term also means the self-study and recitation of the Vedas and other sacred books. Etymology, meaning and usage. Svadhyaya is a compound Sanskrit word composed of sva plus adhyaya. Adhyaya means a lesson, lecture, chapter, reading. Sva means own, one's own, self, the human soul. Therefore, Svadhyaya literally means one's own reading, lesson. Svadhyaya is also a compound Sanskrit word composed of sva plus dhyaya. Dhyaya means meditating on. The root of adhyaya and dhyaya is dhyayi, which means meditate, contemplate, think out. The term svadhyaya therefore also connotes contemplation, meditation, reflection of oneself, or simply to study one's own self. The term svadhyaya has other meanings. In this mitis, it refers to the historical practice of self-reciting Vedas to ensure it is memorized and faithfully transmitted, without writing, by the word of mouth, to the next generation. In various schools of Hinduism, particularly yoga, Svadhyaya is also a Niyama, a virtuous behavior. As a virtue, it means study of self, self-reflection, introspection, observation of self. Svadhyaya is translated in a number of ways. Some translate it as the study of the scriptures and asanas. Some translators simply use the word study without qualifying the type of study. McNeill translates it as self-study, a spiritual self-education. Dhyaya, when used in the context of self-study in ancient and medieval Indian texts, is synonymous with abhyasa, adi and vix, while adhyaya, when used in context of reciting and reading in Indian texts, is synonymous with anukti, nipatha and patha. Svadhyaya is a historical practice, learning one's Vedic recension as a tool for memorization. Svadhyaya had a unique meaning for Vedic scholars as the principal tool for the oral preservation of the Vedas in their original form for millennia. When used as a formal part of scriptural study, Svadhyaya involves repeated recitations of scripture for purposes of mastering the mantras with their accurate pronunciation. The Vedas had not been committed to writing in ancient times. Almost all printed editions depend on the late manuscripts that are hardly older than 500 years, not on the still extant and superior oral tradition. Munir Williams defines Sruti as sacred knowledge orally transmitted by the Brahmins from generation to generations. The Veda. Michael Witzel explains this oral tradition as follows. The Vedic texts were orally composed and transmitted, without the use of script, in an unbroken line of transmission from teacher to student that was formalized early on. This ensured an impeccable textual transmission superior to the classical texts of other cultures. It is, in fact, something like a tape recording. Not just the actual words, but even the long-lost musical accent has been preserved up to the present. The commentator Sayana discusses this term in the introduction of his commentary on the Gveda, in which he says that Svadhyaya enables Vedic rituals to take place. Madhva, the dualistic Vaishnava philosopher, defined philosophy as the three-stage process of understanding, reflection, and application, expressing itself in two forms, study and teaching. Of these two, Madhva considered teaching to be the highest aspect of discipline leading to moksha. Madhvacharya's views on Svadhyaya are to be found found in Chapter 15 of Svādhyāya Sangraha. The Taittiriya Upanishad, which belongs to the Yajurveda, is still popular among those who learn Vedic chanting. Recitation of mantras is an integral part of Bhakti Yoga, and in this tradition of Hinduism, it is sometimes called Japa Yoga. Exceptions. There are certain days on which Svadhyaya were prohibited. These were called Anadhyaya, after which Svadhyaya must be resumed on the following day. Therefore, the day of resumption is also called Svadhyaya. Svadhyaya is a Niyama. Svadhyaya is one of the three key elements in the practice of yoga as defined in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, appearing in the opening verse of Book 2 on spiritual practice and elaborated upon in 2 other verses. Patanjali mentions Svadhyaya a second time as one of the 5 recommended observances, along with purity, contentment, austerity, and self-surrender. The 5 niyamas, together with the 5 abstentions, have been described as the 10 commandments of the Samkhya Yoga. The practice of Svadhyaya as a niyama is perfected in many forms. One form of Svadhyaya is mantra meditation, where certain sound constructs pregnant with meaning are recited, anchoring the mind to one thought. This practice helps draw the mind away from outward-going tendencies, silencing the crowding of thoughts, and ultimately towards inward feeling of resonance. It can alternately be any music, sermon, chant, inspirational book that absorbs the person to a state of absorption, trance, unifying oneness. Svadhyaya is practiced as a self-reflection process, where one silently meditates in asana on one's own behaviors, motivations and plans. Svadhyaya is, in a sense, for one's spirit and mind a process equivalent to watching one's body in a non-distorting mirror. This self-study in yoga is not merely contemplation of one's own motives and behaviors, but also of one's circumstances and the environment one is in, assessing where one is in one's life, what is one's life direction, if and how desirable changes may lead to a more fulfilling self.